Thank you for joining us today. My name is Matt Roberts. I'm the VP of Marketing at MarcomCentral, and I'm joined today with John Genovese, who is our Fusion Pro Sales Manager. He's going to be the primary presenter today. I don't have a lot to say right now. There are a couple of reminders, the first of which is that this webinar is going to be recorded. So if you want to watch it later, if you want to send it to somebody in your organization, that will be available to you. And then the second part is in the column on your desktop, you should see a questions tab. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, just feel free to put those in there. Then after John's presentation is over, we'll go ahead and answer those. So throughout the presentation, make sure you get those in there, and we'll try the best that we can. If we can't answer them during or after the webinar, we'll make sure that we reach out to you afterwards. But right now, I'm going to pass over the time to John, and he's going to drive the rest of the presentation. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Matt. I am glad everyone took a minute out of your day to join me. I will try to make this informational and still keep it relatively short. So, as most of you probably know, we have Fusion Pro is our VDP suite. So we have a handful of tools, right? At the desktop, we have Fusion Pro Creator. Now, Fusion Pro Creator is basically the heart of Fusion Pro. It doesn't matter whether you have our production solution or desktop solution, Fusion Pro Creator is where you're going to create the design, where you attach the database, where you create the rules, and so forth. Also at the desktop, we have Fusion Pro Expression. Fusion Pro Expression is that product that allows you to do personalized images. Then on the production side, we have Fusion Pro Producer. So for the Fusion Pro Creator folks that are doing more data than what the desktop can handle, this is a great application because it's very, very fast, up to 10 times as fast, and it has a much better workflow in that it can drop the composed file off into a RIP, for example, and then let you know that it did it. So great workflow. Also on the production side is Fusion Pro Server, and many of the case studies that we're going to look at, in fact, all of the case studies that we're going to look at were enabled by Fusion Pro Server. Now, Fusion Pro Server, along with the high speed, also brings APIs. And with APIs, you're able to integrate Fusion Pro into many different applications or environments. So it can be used as an automated variable data workflow. It can be used as a back end to a web to print system. We use it ourselves. MarcomCentral uses it for that purpose. But it can also be an interface to online bill presentment. Not the interface, but the main production engine for online bill presentment. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the applications that we do with Fusion Pro, right? So full color or black and white. Now labels is listed number one, and as it turns out, labels as records go is probably by far the number one thing that we do, and the very first case study is going to speak to that, and you'll see why. These are small labels that go in supermarkets, for example. A lot of horsepower being thrown at that particular application. But we also do calendars. We have direct mailers that use it for mailing letters and postcards, and we have folks doing trans-promotional statements. An up-and-coming application is serialized packaging. In the pharmaceutical world, they're being held to a very high standard, and one of the latest things that they've got to deal with, it's in Europe right now and coming to this country, is that the packaging is going to need to be serialized. Great way to do that is through Fusion Pro. Documents with data-driven graphics, sequential numbering, et cetera. Okay, so let's jump into our use cases. So the very first one is a large supermarket chain. And I said that, it's a lot of horsepower being thrown at this particular application. We have a lot of customers that what they do, and some supermarket chains themselves, they print these tags that are right there on the edge of the screen, on the edge of the shelves. Okay, and there's thousands upon thousands of these in every single store. So this one particular supermarket chain has 1,200 plus locations, and they need to provide new pricing in advance of price changes, which, by the way, happen weekly. And it's not standardized pricing. You can go in a store in one location and see a different price than you do in another location. That's called differential pricing. So that just adds to the complexity of the task. Also, you figure how many of these labels have to be put on. These things have to be presented to the store in a way that they can simply walk down the aisles and the labels are in the order of the aisle. They walk down one side, go from top to bottom, and then walk back up that aisle, on the left side, for example, and work top to bottom. So Fusion Pro Server allowed them to completely automate this and to be able to produce the labels in that fashion to where they could walk the aisles exactly as we stated. Prior to that, it was kind of a nightmare. But the Fusion Pro solution, because of the intelligent template that they were able to design, allowed them to streamline this. So it worked out very, very well. And as I said, a lot of horsepower being thrown at that exact application in all arms of retail. The next use case is a national health insurance company. Now, we all are familiar with, the health provider booklets. We all know that they're very expensive to produce. The booklets are generally printed for the entire nation, and they're not necessarily specific to a plan. In addition, for this particular company, the booklets were being produced by an outside company, a print service provider, that was mailing the booklet, and then the insurance company themselves were mailing other items that accompanied the booklet. So it was basically double the mailing cost. So once again, Fusion Pro Server was installed. It enabled this customer to create provider directories that were specific to a company plan and then by region, which drastically reduced the printing cost because the books were much, much smaller than the original package booklet. It also allowed them to send one package per customer, meaning, the mailing, right? So they take this document, they stick it into a envelope, and then put in anything else that needed to join it, and one mailing. And then the key features of Fusion Pro that allowed them to do this is running continued section headers. So if you take a look at these, the dark gray sections, now none of these are flowing over a page, but if it did flow over a page, and for example that says Jefferson, that's a county, it would say Jefferson continued, for example, and Fusion Pro is able to track that. It's also able to do some data processing to help build the index for page numbers. So if you're in the back of the book and you're looking for a particular doctor, it'll tell you where in the book that doctor appears. And by the way, he may appear in this book several times. So if it's 3 or 4 different pages that this doctor is on, it would show all 3 pages. And again, Fusion Pro is helping with all that. So again, just a great application that if you're an insurance company, this one's kind of a home run. The next one is a marketing service provider. So this is for a large, very, very large auto manufacturer. Okay, it's their marketing arm. So what they do for the dealerships is to provide basically a catalog of these coupons. So, as a car dealer, I could say, okay, well, I want to offer, an air conditioning service at 20% off, but I also want to offer these other things. And on that particular coupon might be a list of 15 different things that the car dealership could choose from. Now, the way they were doing it before is that they had 5 graphic designers that basically spent their day customizing coupons. I call in with the 10% oil change, and I also want to offer a tire balance. Well, I've got to add that to the coupon. So once again, we put Fusion Pro Server in, which made the coupons available online. And it allowed the dealership to be able to edit their own coupons. So they could put in their store information. They could put in, the coupon offer. And it had check boxes basically on the interface that they built for this thing, where they could see they call for TB123 coupon, and then that coupon was 10% off, and then they could put either add or delete checks that would add the different bullets that might go onto that coupon. And then all of those coupons were put onto a personalized postcard. Now, that postcard literally showed the customer their car. It was very specific, right? That particular car that you see on screen there, that's my car, right? And they know, my mileage, so they also know that I'm doing oil change, and they know what else is relevant to me, and they put that on the coupon too. So highly personalized. Now, what that did was it enabled them, to scale the business, because the way they were doing it before, it was not scalable. I mean, every time, they added more dealerships, they had to have more graphic designers because, you just had that many more people calling in. So by putting them online and letting the dealership create these things themselves, of course, within the rules that they've set up for the different template, that allows them to scale. More dealerships, the more the merrier. But it also allowed those graphic designers to be able to do, what they were really hired to do, which is to create new content, that can be used within this online portal. So, another very, very good application. The next one is a utility company. Now, this is a water company, and they were printing their bills with Fusion Pro, and mailing them out. So, wouldn't you figure that every single bill was printed and mailed? There's a fair amount of cost to that. So in speaking to them, we, kind of pitched the idea that they could go to paperless billing, much like, many of the big organizations that we're probably all familiar with, right? Verizon allows for it, Comcast, big organizations. They've already solved this problem. But, a lot of these smaller utilities, and some of the bigger ones too, haven't. So utilizing Fusion Pro Server, they were able to offer the residents of the community options for billing. You could get online paperless billing, you could get email billing, or you could still receive a paper bill. You could also go online and preview your bills. You could go into your history and look at old bills. And all this was done with one template, whether you were getting it online for paperless billing, whether you were getting an email, they still just ran the job and created a PDF that they would email out to the resident, or if you're looking at your history, or for print, all done with one template, and then of course Fusion Pro Server in the background. This was a major savings. The ROI for this thing happened within months of installing the solution. Okay, so that is a handful of applications that Fusion Pro Server has enabled. There are certainly a lot more, that we could talk to you about if, you have a need for such things, and we would be very glad to do that. I don't see any questions at this time. We are at the end of the presentation. So if there are no more questions, I thank you for your time. Hopefully you found some information in here that was useful. So last but not least, I simply want to say thank you.
Thank you, John. Yeah, and thank you everyone for attending. And I forgot to mention, sorry for last week with the webinar rescheduling, but we appreciate all of you being here. We will send these updates and pass those out to you. And then any webinars or content in the future, we'll be sending that out to you as well. So thank you again. And this concludes today's webinar. Thank you.